wow, I've literally been on the platform for 1 day and I'm already banned for life. That's pretty bad. Hey legends, if you are running a YouTube channel right now, considering making one, or just curious what's happening with this channel, you really don't want to miss this. But first thing you'll notice is this is a long looking video. And that's because it's actually more of a podcast, and so there'll be a few things on screen, but I wanted to make sure you could listen whilst you're getting on with something else, because there is a lot we are covering. And I truly believe if you are making content or ever planning on it, this could save you possibly hundreds of hours. And if it doesn't, I will give you a full refund. And if you're thinking, John, this was posted for free, yep. But there are lessons in here from paid YouTube courses, so buckle up. And you might be thinking, John, why on earth do I want to listen to someone who right now has less than 300 subscribers talking about YouTube? Glad you asked. Well, firstly, I guarantee there is some stuff in here you haven't heard before. Stuff that the big channels just never mentioned, because YouTube was a different place when they first started. And so these are up-to-date lessons from someone who has literally just been through the process of starting a YouTube channel. To be honest, it's essentially a bit of a takedown of my own channel in a way, critiquing what I got wrong, what I got right in some cases, to save you time so that if you ever make any form of content yourself, especially on YouTube, you can avoid the same mistakes and immediately start crushing it. What I learned the hard way, you're about to learn the easy way. But although there really are 100 actionable takeaways here, which is honestly more than some paid YouTube courses offer altogether, it's not just YouTube tips. I'll be explaining why I stopped making videos, what the plan is now. It's gonna get quite intimate, to be honest. But best of all, there's also a competition. At random points throughout this episode, you'll hear this noise. The first person to comment below the correct number of times the noise appears throughout the episode will get a shout out for their own YouTube channel or their own product or service or website or social media page, whatever they want to promote, when this channel hits 1,000 subscribers. As I figure at that point, the audience size will be big enough to make the shout out especially worthwhile. Now, even if you see people in the comments having already guessed, it's pretty likely they've counted wrong, so just take a wild guess yourself, even if you don't make it to the end of this, because you've got nothing to lose. And just to be clear, that noise I just played counts as number 1. Right, we've got all kinds of things to cover. I'm excited to share this with you all. So get comfy and let's dive right in. And we're starting at the beginning because lesson 1 is that it's much harder than you think to grow a successful YouTube channel. Becoming a YouTuber is the most desired job in the world, apparently. And look, if you're just doing YouTube purely as a hobby and having some fun, that's great. Honestly, don't worry too much about all these strategies we're going to talk about, because in this video, I'm talking to the people who, like me, view YouTube as either part of their business or even a potential full-time job. And for that, you need to realize that contrary to what some people say, it's obviously not a case of just switching on the camera, posting some videos once or twice a week, because if it were that easy, everyone would just be full-time YouTubers, right? It's a pretty sweet way to make money. But no, there is a lot to learn, a lot of patience and grinding required, which is why there's 99 more lessons here. Having said that, lesson 2 is that YouTube is still worth it, and things aren't as bad as they seem. So part of the reason I stopped YouTube for a few months, before the channel had even really properly got going, was that I was hearing so much negativity about YouTube, constant talks of channel demonetizations and terminations, unfair copyright strikes and so on. And as someone whose channel often heavily relies on fair use laws, which we'll touch on later, hearing all this got me a little worried, to be honest, because I started this channel at the start of January 2019 as a bit of an experiment, but the feedback was surprisingly good. So the idea was, once I finished university, to take YouTube a bit more seriously and start posting regularly around September time. But then I was thinking, do I really want to pour all those hours into something that could get deleted at any moment? Because that's the reality. But I've come to 2 realizations since then, which is why on October 1st, I essentially relaunched this channel. First thing I realized is that we only really hear about the negative stuff, not all the creators who aren't having issues. And so for most people, there aren't problems. Second thing I realized is that I'm not actually building a YouTube channel, I'm building a personal brand. And, you know, if the worst thing does happen, all of this content can be reused elsewhere. So the upshot is, if you are having doubts about YouTube, I think you can't let that hold you back from taking the chance, because if you push on and do get some momentum, YouTube is an incredible platform. You might have heard the stat that 80% of internet traffic will be video by 2020. And YouTube is by far the biggest platform for videos, with no sign of slowing down. So, you know, there's nothing that comes close right now. So for the vast majority of people, getting good with YouTube is going to be pretty vital, I think. Now, lesson 3 is that the riches are in the niches, which might be something you've heard before, but I didn't quite realize the significance at first. I mean, it's the same with most areas of business, I think, though. You know, trying to please everyone at the beginning normally ends up pleasing nobody. You're better off delighting a specific group and going more specific and narrow in your focus. So for me at the beginning, one big mistake I made was my channel was kind of confusing. Didn't help that 2 of my first 4 videos used characters from TV shows, and although I still like the idea of infusing self-development and business with popular characters, people were coming to my channel and seeing one video titled How to Get Rich, another about New Year's resolutions, another about Rick and Morty. Unless they watched all 3 videos, they wouldn't really get what the hell was going on here. So not only do you need a niche or a niche, you need to communicate it. Mine now is the 0 to millionaire journey, so I define that as anything related to my journey to becoming a millionaire that can help others, you know, that's a fit for the channel if it's to do with making money and living a richer life and improving yourself in that way, which is still quite broad. I could go even more specific, but as long as you've got a clear definition of, you know, what your boundaries are, you can then, you know, tweak that a little bit as you progress, I think, and, you know, figure it out slightly along the way. But I think you really do need to have a niche to start out with, because if you're just uploading a mix of whatever you want, that's a really risky strategy because, you know, it's hard to get subscribers if they don't know what they're signing up for. Lesson 4, start with a topic you are genuinely passionate about, which sounds obvious, but, you know, for me, the idea of money gets me pumped. I'm serious. I love the idea. I'm into all this self-development stuff that comes with building a richer life for yourself. I view it like I'm leveling up my life, essentially. And, you know, I see some people, though, making channels and then immediately asking for ideas for their first few videos. And my thinking is, if you don't already have things you want to make and talk about, don't just make a channel for the sake of it. You know, if it goes well, you're going to be making videos on this topic for years, potentially hundreds of videos on that topic. So you're better to pick wisely early on. I mean, it's not that you can't change it later down the line, but you'll then end up with some subscribers who don't like the new change, which just isn't going to go well. Because you essentially then get subscribers who aren't going to click on many future videos, which has all kinds of negative consequences. So on a similar note with me, I actually had another YouTube channel before starting this channel. It was from years ago, but when I checked, I had like 310 subscribers and was halfway to the 4,000 hours of watch time that you need to get monetized. So I was tempted just to rebrand that channel rather than start a new one. But all I'd uploaded was completely random stuff, like a couple of songs from a band I like. Nothing to do with me or any of the topics I talk about now. So there was absolutely no guarantee any of those subscribers would want this new kind of content. So although I would have had a bit of a head start in theory, I honestly believe it would have caused more harm than good in the long term. Like, what signal does it send to YouTube if once I started uploading, there were people immediately unsubscribing or disliking the new videos and just not really watching them at all because they didn't sign up for those? So my point here is really considering your channel topic right from the start and planning ahead a little bit is actually really, really important in my opinion. Lesson 5 is to clearly define your target viewer and make content designed for them. I did this kind of horribly at first, and the reason was that most of the people who watched my early videos were family and friends because they were the ones I could share this stuff with, but most of them likely didn't have any real self-development or businessy context, so I ended up trying to make videos that were accessible to everyone, whilst also trying to be specific to people who knew about this stuff. It just didn't quite work, and so I got a little bit lost with it all, I think. And so when I relaunched on 1st of October, I just said, right, I'm making the exact content I want to make, how I want to make it, and people will either get it or they won't. And the beauty is, when you have a specific target viewer in your mind, you can really design content they are going to love. It doesn't mean others can't like it too, but it means you can more easily attract your ideal audience, which we'll talk about later on as being way more important than just the audience size. Okay, but now you've got all that, let's talk about actually making content. Lesson 6, originality is the key to success. I know that sounds super simple, but I guarantee the reason 99% of channels are growing slowly is down to this reason. Now, when I say originality, that could be your unique perspective or your unique editing style. I don't mean you need to reinvent the wheel every time and come up with a brand new topic never discussed before. That's nearly impossible. But are you offering a fresh alternative wheel at least? Now, I'm no expert, but the biggest mistake I've seen people make is just copying others on what seems to be working for them. Because if YouTube sees that you're just doing the exact same thing they are, well, obviously they're going to recommend the channel that has the bigger audience, not the unknown new creator. You have to be different somehow. It's the only way to stand out when there are vast amounts of content being posted every single minute. Take inspiration from others, sure, but if you're regurgitating the exact same thing, but with worse quality probably and a smaller audience, you are facing a huge uphill battle. Lesson 7 then is to bring some personality. So a great way to be unique is to inject your personality because nobody can quite copy that. So initially my idea with this channel was to be really concise with everything, just cold hard facts, back to back, no fluff or filler. But what I was surprised to realize is that most people don't actually want that. They might think they do, but actually what they want is to get to know you. What I think all of the creators I like do is that I feel like I get to know them a bit, which is a little mad, but it's kind of true, isn't it? You're invited into their lives. You like seeing what they're doing and hearing their thoughts on things. So I actually think putting yourself out there more is key. The reason we might not do that is because it's kind of riskier, isn't it? Because if you're just putting information out there and people don't like it, well, you can go, oh, I didn't like the information. But when you're putting yourself out there, well, maybe there's a chance they didn't like you. But are you really going to let those people stop you from finding the people who actually love what you're doing and your story and, who are going to become your loyal fans? Lesson 8, though, is remember that you have to offer value. I know the word value is thrown around so much that it's almost hollow now, but here is my golden rule for YouTube now, something that I've kind of realized very recently and I'm now going to be doing with every video. So seriously, if you take nothing else from this whole video, please take this. When you make content, ask yourself that if a stranger you had never met before put out the same piece of content, would you take time out of your day to watch it? And our biased instinct is to go, yeah, of course, there's so much value in this content I've made. But seriously, if someone you didn't know was presenting the information you are presenting in the same way, would you watch it? Because if we're brutally honest, that's often not the case. And so this little test is just a nice reminder that we have to be adding something unique, something entertaining, and something they are genuinely going to walk away from this thinking, that actually was useful. That's why it baffles me when you see people making vlog channels about their everyday lives with 0 subscribers. Look, I'm really sorry, but if I don't know somebody at all, unless they're doing something extremely out of the ordinary with their day, I really couldn't care less what they're doing. I don't have time to watch that. So that's not to say vlogs can't be great, but gotta offer some form of value first. Be super empathetic to the viewer and what they want to see. Again, we're talking here for people looking to monetize YouTube and grow quickly, not just people looking to have fun. Okay, so now we're making some content. How would you get anyone to watch it? Well, lesson 9 is that if you're not promoting it off YouTube, don't expect YouTube to promote it either. New channels with like 2 or 3 views on each video have clearly just uploaded it and left the video and expected the algorithm to start showing it to everyone. The odds of that happening are insanely low. Even if you're a bigger channel, I think it's always worthwhile sharing the link anywhere you can. Your personal social media for a start, but then any relevant forums or groups if it's within their rules. For example, relevant subreddits on reddit.com can be brilliant, but you only need to contribute some other stuff to the sub first before considering self-promotion, otherwise they'll think you're a spammer, which essentially you would be if that's all you did, just dump your link. But when it's done right, this is a super effective way to drive more traffic to your videos and then to your channel. Lesson 10 is that you have to be a little bit clickbaity. I know that sounds like YouTube treason, right? Shoot me now, but I'm not talking about putting boobs in the thumbnail of your video about gardening. Don't lie about what your video is, but do remember you are selling your video. You can't grow if nobody actually clicks on it. And you've got plenty of competition. So at the very least, pick the most exciting frame from your video as the thumbnail, but ideally use a free tool like Canva, or if you're feeling fancy, then Photoshop, and make a thumbnail that really pops and grabs attention by being, a little controversial, a little funny, or anything that screams, click me, whilst still being relevant to the video. As long as it's a true depiction of the video, you'll see almost all the big YouTubers are a little clickbaity because of course we're going to try and get people to click it, because if we've put all this time into making great content they're going to love, we need to make sure they actually see it. Now, lesson 11 is that watch time is the most important metric of all. And so for me, my videos were too short before. Around 10 minutes is the universal sweet spot, but of course it should be the length that makes the most sense to the content. Don't just stretch it out for the sake of it or people aren't going to keep watching. But for me, I was making videos unnecessarily concise. So you can definitely expect longer videos with more detail and context in the future. And I can tell you already, just from the 11 days I've been back and posting longer videos, watch time has already gone up a lot. Lesson 12, utilize playlists more. So playlists are more powerful than people give them credit for, I think. Instead of just linking to your video, why not link to your video in playlist format? So that after someone finishes the video you link them to, the next one that's going to play is another video of yours, rather than just letting YouTube randomly suggest someone else's video. You know, this is really important because YouTube is increasingly recommending what it thinks people will like rather than directly related videos, which is why the sidebar next to your video, you know, it often doesn't contain many of your other videos. So playlists can be really helpful for getting people who are already on your content to then go and watch more of it and grow your watch time very quickly, which, as I said, the most important metric of all. But to do that, you have to make some searchable and interesting playlists for your channel, and so group together some content that makes sense to be in the same category and keep updating those playlists as you get more and more content. Lesson 13 is you apparently get some credit for watch time on playlists that contain videos that aren't even yours. So again, make more playlists. For example, it would be worthwhile making a playlist with some of your favorite videos on a specific topic from some big YouTubers, and then you could throw in some of your own videos on that topic in the same playlist as well, because then people might click on it because they see the bigger YouTuber, but then they're still watching the rest of the videos in the playlist and then they get to yours. You know, it's all just about maximizing exposure to your content in any way you can, right? Lesson 14. By default on all channels there is an automatic playlist called uploads. However, from a search engine optimization perspective, apparently it's way better to make your own playlists called, for example, Young Magnates Uploads, or whatever your channel name is, as you can then write a description underneath. So not only can you put some really relevant keywords for your channel in there, it means when people first come to your channel on the homepage, there are a couple of lines of text as a sort of introduction, rather than just whatever your latest upload is, which might not be a good representation of your overall content. So rather than just relying on that default uploads playlist, create your own. Lesson 15. You can never know for sure what's going to be a viral video. Trust me, after studying some of the experts on viral videos, or so they say, you know, all of them will tell you that yes, there are a lot of things you can do to increase the chances, but you can't say for sure. But you absolutely should be doing these little tricks that they suggest to boost the odds of it going viral. Because it's not just luck is just a factor. And so one of the biggest keys that come up time and time again is that viral videos evoke strong emotions. So shareable content always leaves people with some form of feeling they didn't have before. It might be excitement, or it might be that they get upset by it, but anything that triggers a reaction increases the chance of them sharing it with others. So go into your videos asking, what feeling do I want viewers to leave with after watching this? Because if it is a strong emotion, then the chances are they're much more likely to share it with somebody else, which is going to increase the chances of it going viral. Lesson 16. Before posting, ask yourself, would I share this? This is why it's so helpful to know who your audience are and be more empathetic to them, because if it's not content you'd want to show your friends, why would anyone want to show theirs? So easier said than done, sure, but you know, it's a nice little test to remember and bear in mind when you're creating any sort of content. Now, not every video is going to need to pass that test. Sometimes you just want to get some information across to your viewers. But of course, a viral video is going to massively help your channel. And so just remembering, you know, to ask yourself, would I share this? Lesson 17 is to immerse yourself in the analytics of your channel. The analytics are awesome because you can literally see, for example, where people are stopping watching your video, so you know where you're losing people's interest and you can try and fix that. There's so much you can see in there and take away to make your content better, yet most people won't even look at them much. They just look at the vanity metrics like views and subscribers, when those things aren't even the most important metrics. Lesson 18. From a business point of view, subscribers are not the answer at all. What I've only recently realised is that it's better to have a really dedicated, smaller following who love your stuff than a huge following who barely watch your videos and aren't interested. This one was a strange concept for me to understand, but it is 100% true. You can make more money with 1,000 engaged subscribers than someone with 100,000 subscribers. That's not to say you shouldn't keep striving to increase your following, but realize the quality of subscribers is way more important when it comes to monetizing the audience. You've probably heard the 1,000 true fans concept, but if you haven't, look it up after this. But we've got plenty more lessons to come yet. We haven't even hit the real gold yet. So lesson 19, To get loyal fans, reply to every comment you can for as long as you can until you become too busy to do this anymore. But build a community and get to know them. Of course, someone is going to be more invested in your channel if they're chatting with you after videos. And I don't think there's any excuse when you're just starting out to not be engaging with people, leaving hearts on comments and giving replies. Lesson 20 is to comment on other people's channels and engage in their communities too. This is how I got my first few subscribers on YouTube, quite a few of which are now regular commenters on the channel. Shout out if you're listening right now, guys, thank you. But there is genuinely an amazing community of small creators on YouTube, all just trying to grow. And, you know, by befriending other creators, especially in a similar niche to what you're in, well, it's going to be win-win all round. Now, lesson 21 is that the commenting on other channels thing works for larger channels too. For example, you could answer questions that the big YouTuber clearly isn't replying to. So, as an example, a couple of days ago, I answered someone on Dan Locke's channel, and then they connected with me and subscribed. Because if you help someone, it's fairly likely they'll click on your profile and then they might become a fan. The best thing for getting likes on big channels I've found is a little bit of humor. So I had a phase where as soon as a video was posted from a channel with a similar audience, I would try and reply with something vaguely funny. And then on a few, they did really well. Like a few of Charisma on Command's videos, they got well over 1,000 likes on a comment I made. And so they were right at the top of the comment section. And so I just turned on notifications for those channels because then, you know, getting in with an early comment massively boosts the chances of it being top comment. And obviously with this, it really helps if the channel is actually relevant to you as well. So as another example, I tried it with a PewDiePie video and made some dumb joke about T-Series, but it went really crazy with thousands of likes. But I don't think anyone came across to my channel from that, especially as it was such a different niche. And so what I'm trying to clarify here is that don't expect even with top comment on any channel that you'll just get loads of subscribers from it. But if it's in your own niche and, you know, you get your name out there, well then when people start seeing it a few times in different comment sections, especially if it's a top comment that is really funny or interesting, that's when people might get intrigued and click on your profile. Lesson 22. Do not self-promote on other people's comments. So commenting on other channels is great, but not only is self-promoting your channel just disrespectful to the creator, it will get you flagged for spam. I know this because I got permanently banned from YouTube, which you might say, no you didn't, John, I'm watching your video right now. So what happened was when I first joined YouTube back in January, I got a bit over enthusiastic and just started commenting all over the place. I was, you know, it was always directly related to the video, but on maybe 4 or 5 of the comments, I mentioned something along the lines of, oh, I just started a new channel too. I was a bit like a puppy, just bouncing around everywhere excitedly, but being a bit oblivious. And the next day I wake up to a message that the channel has been deleted for spam. And it literally said, you are not allowed to ever make another YouTube channel. And I was like, wow, I've literally been on the platform for 1 day and I'm already banned for life. That's pretty bad. Now, by some miracle, after posting around the internet trying to understand what was happening and why, someone at YouTube might have looked at the case, I guess, and realized, oh, it actually wasn't spam. You know, 'cause I think they thought I was a spam bot from the sheer amount of comments I made that day, mixed with the fact that several of them automatically got flagged as spam because, you know, their search filter picks up when you're referencing your own channel because, you know, they're trying to block out the spam, rightly so. And so, you know, that must have triggered some sort of ban. Now, that was likely because it was a brand new account, but I want to stress that indirectly promoting your channel is spam. So although you might not get banned, you will normally get flagged for spam. Luckily for me, I realized that right at the beginning, so I now never mention anything like that in the comments. But learn from my initial mistake and add value in the comments, don't spam. There are some people I see who comment on videos but clearly haven't watched any of them. They just reply to the comment's title, and you're hurting the person's channel by opening the video and then clicking away so quickly. It's great to engage with videos, but people can sense when it's just a fake comment like, cool video or something. Like, put some effort in and it will not only be beneficial to you, but beneficial to the channel you're commenting on as well. And if you want your comment to be seen by others, then it's in your best interest for the channel you're commenting on to do well, right? So as obvious as this might sound, only comment if it's a video you're actually watching and have something worthwhile to say on. It's in everyone's best interest, and not only will it mean YouTube doesn't automatically flag you for spam, well, you know, it also means the creator will appreciate you more. And that's how you build an actual connection with someone, which is going to be way more valuable than just, you know, a quick shout out in the comment section, which you do yourself, which, you know, isn't really going to encourage anyone to click on your channel anyway. Again, I know this sounds super simple, but since I was just advocating commenting on other people's channels, I just want to be really clear that there's a right and a wrong way to do it. Lesson 23, back up all your videos and content. If that initial YouTube ban scare taught me anything, it's you better back up all your content, because you never know what's going to happen. If something goes horribly wrong, and it could, YouTube isn't immune to some freak data loss accident, you've still got the content you worked on all this time, so that time wasn't wasted. You can download all your videos from within the YouTube's Creator Studio if you no longer have the original file on your computer or hard drive, but in the, you know, put it in a nice cloud storage somewhere where it's safe, just in case anything does go wrong. I know backing up is such like a boring process, but it's one of those things that, you know, if you're not reminded to do it, it's very easy to just kind of let it slide until it's too late. Lesson 24 is to be on other social platforms as well. Not only can this help drive traffic to your YouTube channel, like the previous point, it gives you some insurance as sometimes YouTube goes wrong. Now is probably a good time to suggest that you go and follow Young Magnates on Twitter or search John Fraser on LinkedIn, but seriously, don't just rely on YouTube, just in case. Lesson 25, at least understand the basics of search engine optimization. The content is the most important thing, but search engine optimization absolutely matters. A good starting point is to put the search term you want to rank for in your title and start of the description, but actually written well, not just a list of tags, as YouTube knows if you're trying to be spammy. But there is nothing wrong with using key search terms that accurately describe your video. So ask yourself, what would people actually be searching for to find your content, and reverse engineer it from there? Because if it's not searchable, you can't rely on subscribers alone watching the video. You need to attract new people actively looking for this kind of content. And generic, undescriptive titles won't work there. But with some planning, even small channels can rank really well, especially if you try to target long tail keywords. So for example, as a new channel, you might not rank for how to make money, but you probably could rank for how to make money as an 18-year-old. Yes, there's a bit of a lower search volume, but there's a much higher chance of you being able to rank for it. And, you know, that means that it's much more useful to be on page 1 for a search term that's a bit less popular than on page 30 for a really popular search term, because nobody is going to page 30. Lesson 26, use TubeBuddy or VidIQ to see other people's tags for successful videos. You can literally see what's working and even see the competition score for search terms. Now that feature isn't always fully accurate, but there's no reason not to use tools like this that can improve your SEO. So the basic versions are completely free and easy to add to YouTube, and they do show a lot of information. And in my experience, most creators seem to use them. So if you haven't got them yet, check them out. VidIQ and TubeBuddy are the two main ones. Lesson 27 is to get creative with promotion. Think where the majority of your ideal audience would be right now and how you can get your channel to them. Now, there's obviously no step-by-step guide for that, but if you can crack that, and you really can grow rapidly. So instead of always looking for the next winning promotion strategy, start trying to create your own strategy. Something you can do as well is steal your audience. What I mean by this is that look at people who are leading the way in your niche and go and try attract some of their audience. For example, on TikTok, I just went and followed a bunch of Gary Vee followers. On YouTube, I'll reply to, people on big business and self-development channels. There's nothing wrong with engaging in, someone else's audience when you know they're likely going to be interested in your content as well. Now, you obviously can't outright say, come look at my videos, but you can boost the chances of that happening by engaging with them. So don't feel like you have to build a brand new audience from scratch, when you can often just go and find a lot of your desired audience altogether on someone else's social media. Lesson 28 is have a featured video that explains your channel, as it's the first thing people will see when they come to your channel. So I recently just posted a Young Magnates trailer the other week that you might have seen, and it means it's much easier for people to understand what your channel is right away. And pay special attention to the description of your featured video too, because the first few lines of that will display alongside the trailer video. So it means when people first come to your channel, they're going to see that along with the featured video, those few lines of text. So you can only make that first impression once, so really make it count and consider what those are going to be. I didn't even have a trailer before, I just had a random video as my channel trailer, which I don't think was really giving the best impression of what the channel was. And you may as well use this feature for, at least for new subscribers. You don't have to have a trailer enabled for, current subscribers, because hopefully they already kind of get what your channel is. But for new people, I just think this is such an effective way to immediately tell people, this is what I'm all about, and really sell it, obviously, because that is your chance to hook someone in as soon as they get to your page. Lesson 29. Regular posting does matter. The quality versus quantity debate is a tough one because of course you need both, but I like the idea from Gary Vee that quality is subjective, so you can actually do both if you stop seeing quality in terms of hours spent on content and more in terms of the value delivered. So lesson 30 is that part of the reason for what I just said is that every upload you post is a bit of a lottery ticket. Nobody can say for certain if a post will do well. You don't fully know what's going to be received best. So, if you post more, you're going to boost your chances. Start seeing each video as a shot at going viral or taking off and, reaching a big audience, because it only really takes one hit to really help your channel take off. Lesson 31, the first 24 to 48 hours of your video is crucial. Drive as much engagement as you can in that period. So your video even gets a boost in search during that time. Capitalize on it by ensuring your external promotion happens as soon as possible after posting. If you have scheduled videos, make a note in your calendar to go on as soon as they're posted to share them on other platforms and engage with the comments straight away. Lesson 32. Having said all of this about quantity and how the quality is dependent on the value you give and not just the production value, well, that obviously doesn't mean you should believe it when the top YouTubers tell you, I started with the phone, equipment doesn't matter at all. Well, why are they using expensive kit then? Of course it matters, but if your only choice is using a phone or not starting, well then yes, a phone is a million times better. Now, I'm not saying you need expensive, equipment right from the beginning or to go and overinvest in it. What I am saying is that you do want to try and get better equipment as soon as you can afford it if you're really serious about growing your channel, because, getting the most expensive 4K camera isn't going to bring in subscribers until you've figured out how to make good content in the first place. But the equipment does give you an edge, and in my opinion, a bit more credibility as well. Literally anyone can film a selfie video in their bedroom on their phone, so the extra production value can help you stand out a bit, especially amongst smaller channels. So the upshot is, it matters, yes, but obviously nowhere near as much as good content. So don't let that hold you back, but don't also buy into the idea that it doesn't matter at all. Lesson 33. After many hours of research, I went for the Canon 80D camera because it seems very popular amongst YouTubers. I think largely due to the flip screen so you can see yourself when filming. We're so vain. But now obviously it's actually quite important when it's just you filming that you can see you're positioned right on the little screen. And so, otherwise you can end up with a lot of wasted footage. It's very unlikely you're going to have a whole camera crew to film for you, when you're just starting out. Now, obviously, there's a good phrase for this that, the best equipment is the equipment you have. But, use the best available that you've got. But I'm just mentioning my camera because it took me a while to figure out what some of the top YouTubers are using. Doesn't mean you need to go and get that. It just means, it's there as an option if you want it, because it's hard to go wrong with a camera like that. Lesson 34 is that if you're going to spend more money and you're on a very limited budget, audio is actually more important than video, which is kind of surprising on a video-based platform, right? But whilst a phone camera actually does look pretty good in terms of the footage, as long as it's in reasonable lighting, the audio often isn't that great, and it's really hard to watch a video if the audio is bad. We can kindly get away with not amazing footage, but bad audio is annoying. So lesson 35 is that lavalier mics or lav mics are the answer. Those are the little mics that clip onto what you're wearing, so no matter where you move, they're still getting good sound without having to speak right into it like with most mics. I now use something called the Rodelink Filmmaker Kit, but you can get a cheap lav mic to plug into your phone depending on what kind of content you're looking to make. It's easy to sync up the audio with the video after filming as well. That was something I was worried about, but in most video editing software it's actually really simple. And the important thing here is getting good audio in the first place, so you don't have to worry about editing it too much afterwards. I mean, you can normally apply like an equalizer or some sort of effect just to make make it sound a bit nicer, but generally speaking, as long as you capture good audio to begin with, you'll be all set. So it's worth investing in one of those little lav mics, especially if you're going to be moving around at all and you're otherwise just relying on the inbuilt microphone in the camera, which generally isn't amazing. But if you're inside filming, you might be able to get away with it. It's more outside that could be an issue. Lesson 36. If you do buy a nice camera, it's probably worth getting a tripod. My first few videos were literally balancing this expensive camera on books, which is fine until the books fall. Plus, I'm pretty sure a couple of my early videos were actually kind of off balance because I hadn't quite stacked it right. So if you really look at them, you know, it's a bit lopsided. So look, if necessary, you can make something work, but tripods aren't that expensive. And so I think, yeah, if you're going to purchase a good camera, you may as well purchase a tripod to go with it. Lesson 37 on this note, though, is that my first tripod was just an Amazon's basic one, and it broke very quickly. Whereas the second one I bought just felt more sturdier and safer, and it's still going strong. So I'll put a link below if you want to check that one out. In fact, I'll try and put a link to most of the things I mentioned here in terms of kit, so you can at least get some ideas. But the point here is that although you definitely won't need a fancy high-end tripod, you know, if you've bought an expensive camera, it's probably best not to rest it on the cheapest tripod imaginable. Lesson 38, you can get a cheap pop-up green screen if you don't have a good background. If you have reasonably good video editing software, there'll be something called a chroma key or ultra key effect, which you can then apply to easily change the green background to anything you want, like they do in the movies. If you're filming at home, this is a great way to have a better background than whatever your room is. Sometimes you might want the more personal home feel, but if you're going for something a little more high-end, a pop-up green screen is a really easy way to do it. I was honestly surprised that, you know, anyone could use one so simply. Just with a simple effect, you can change the background to anything. Lesson 39. For most channels, simple and even free video editing software will more than do the job. Honestly, most of my editing is literally just cutting clips together, zooming a little bit, adding text and so on. So unless you're super, you know, creative and arty with your videos, expensive video editing software at the beginning probably isn't really necessary at all. Okay, let's get away from the kit for a minute. Lesson 40 is to look at your favorite channels for inspiration, because you can go to their channels and sort by most popular videos, and then you've got a list of what worked best for them and what you know there's demand for in your niche. Now, don't flat out copy them because, as we said earlier, originality is key, but you can absolutely take ideas from what's working and then repackage it with your own spin. And doing this is really interesting because using those tools I mentioned earlier, you can see the tags they've used and why the video is ranking so well. So you can fully understand what the algorithm is pushing and what demand there is for certain topics. Lesson 41, have a unique perspective or challenge assumptions. There's this concept called banner blindness, where if you're seeing the same ad in the same position, you just start blocking it out and not even noticing it anymore. But this concept extends to a lot of things, where if we keep seeing the same thing, we'll block it out. So don't let this happen with your videos. A great way to get interest in a video is by challenging common beliefs your viewers might have, challenging the norms. Whereas I saw a video just yesterday called something like, why you shouldn't compare yourself to others. Now, it might be a great video, but it's not really enticing to click it because we already kind of know there's probably not a great thing to be comparing yourself to others. Lesson 42. Take elements from outside your own niche. So a good way to get creative is to combine something that's working well in one niche with what's working well in another. So for me, rather than just looking at what other business and self-development channels are doing, I'm trying to look at other topics completely that are completely different to that and see what's working there and whether there are elements that I can take and apply to my own videos. Because often there is potential crossover, and by combining two things, you can end up with something new entirely. So I really do think taking inspiration from a wide mix of places can really help. Lesson 43. Focus on the positives, not the negatives. People can get loads of amazing comments, then focus on the one negative one. On YouTube, I think you really have to make a conscious effort to celebrate the positives and those little wins. You know, the reality is everyone has to start somewhere, and yeah, your content might not be amazing at the beginning, but go back and look at some of your favorite creators. Neither was theirs at the start, you know. So celebrate every little win, every time you're getting a little bit better at something, and you know, focus on the good comments. Don't just let that one bad comment completely derail all the good work you've put in. Lesson 44 though is YouTube can be tough and YouTube burnout is very real. So what I think you can do is, you know, Get to know other YouTubers, join groups and support each other on your own journeys, which sounds kind of cheesy, but ironically, although you're building an audience, the actual process of doing that is kind of lonely. It's very an individual task. So a lot of time it's just you and a laptop or you and your camera. So it's like with the big influencers, they're super popular, but their actual days might be kind of lonely when you think about it. So having some support around you of people doing the same thing, I think can be really motivating and helpful. And you can then share advice to help each other too. And one person might be better at one thing than another, and by combining it, you're all gonna grow a little bit quicker. Lesson 45. If you're doing well, you're gonna have haters. I remember seeing one person with a small channel who was genuinely really upset because one of the comments really was criticizing her. And I get it. You put all that work into something and then someone puts you down. It's tough. We all want to be liked and appreciated. That's just human nature. But look at any big YouTuber. They all have a lot of abuse. It's a downside of putting yourself out there. I do believe the positives outweigh that negativity, so you can't let a random stranger who doesn't even know you impact your day or your feelings about YouTube. And although this is obvious, lesson 46 is that haters can actually help your channel. That's how you need to see it, because as long as you don't get a crazy amount of dislikes, I've seen some sources say the dislikes count as engagement still, so a few dislikes can actually help the video slightly. At the very least, the extra views and couple of dislikes really aren't doing any harm. So as long as it's a low percent, really don't worry about them too much. Start seeing haters as a sign that you are making progress on YouTube because you are attracting more people. If you're only getting a small inner circle of subscribers watching, it's tough to grow. You have to attract some of the wrong people to then find the right people. Lesson 47, bearing that in mind, polarizing content really works. Way harder to grow with vanilla content. Now, I'm not saying you need to be super controversial, but being 100% unapologetically you will help you repel the wrong kind of people who aren't a good fit for your channel and simultaneously attract the right people who are and will love you and your content, which is obviously what we want. So for example, with me, a while back, I definitely wouldn't have posted that recent video I did, which was why I'd never celebrate a 2-1 degree, which if you didn't see, it was basically just a rant about why I think you shouldn't settle for average and how most people do, but, you need to push on for more than that. It's not actually that controversial, but, it would be easy for someone to see the title and just assume the worst and immediately start hating on it, but the reception of it was actually really good and it prompted a few really interesting comments and discussions. Lesson 48. Following on from all this, don't lose yourself for views. I'm sure we all know some YouTubers who just do crazy stuff for views. Remember, our goal is to build a loyal fan base and a genuine audience, not just to do what we can to maximize views without thinking about the effect on our brand and perception. There is a balance here. So, to me at least, I've realized the main thing is building the right audience, even if that isn't always the biggest audience. So although, definitely be polarizing, definitely challenge assumptions, there is a limit to how far you should push things just for views, because it's the fact we're trying to build an audience, we're not trying to get views. That's the real message there. Lesson 49. Okay, speaking of which, if you can stop obsessively looking at the vanity metrics like views and start focusing more on the things that matter, like how engaged your community is, you will definitely be better off. And I am a complete hypocrite here because I absolutely love seeing when a video gets more views and I check my subscriber count all the time, but I'm working on this. I think for your own sanity and for the good of your channel, you've got to shift your focus to the more important things. Of course, views and subs do matter, but I've realized we need to see the whole picture more and not define success by just those kind of things. Aside from anything else, it's super unhealthy. Lesson 50 then. Collaborate. Great way to get exposure to someone else's audience. If you go to a channel's about page, you can normally get an email address to contact them, strike up a nice message and offer them value again. Don't expect them just to put you on their channel. But if you're a similar size and a similar niche, well, quite likely you can work something out that's mutually beneficial. I'm definitely going to be looking to do more of this next month, and the only reason I haven't yet is because I'm trying to build some content on my own channel first. But yeah, if you think, there'd be a good fit for us both to collaborate, hit me up by all means, because I'm definitely keen to do that. I think it's a real win-win strategy. So the flip side to this is lesson 51. Make sure your own about page is up to date, not only with an email address, mind, so you can get those kind of inquiries, but also because you get a limited space to describe your channel on that about page. So use all of it and remember to really sell your channel. It should be a concise summary of what you're offering and why they should subscribe. Not a long introduction of you, but a snappy introduction to the channel and what it's offering them. Okay, let's get into some lessons from my channel specifically that you can hopefully apply in your own channel or your own content. So, lesson 52. I ditched my intro. Now, it didn't help that it was a pretty generic intro, to be honest, but I think most people should at least look at shortening their intro, because if you look at channel statistics, I'm willing to bet you'll see a drop off of viewers if you have a logging introduction to every video. New viewers want you to get right into the good stuff, so you can drop some information about your channel further in, but they're more likely to subscribe if they've already watched a few minutes of the video and you're delivering on what you offered in the title, rather than just immediately saying, hello, subscribe to me right at the start of a video. Lesson 53. Based on this, you need to start with a hook. Don't start with a boring channel update like, hey guys, I'm so pleased, got to announce that we've got 11 subscribers. No, in the first 10 seconds, you've got to sell what you're doing in the video, and then once they're hooked, you can be a bit more chatty. People in those first few seconds just want to understand if this video is for them or not. So you'll notice in my later videos, I normally try to be more direct at the beginning to make it clear what this video can do for the person watching. Lesson 54, make evergreen content. Content that will always be relevant because it's a timeless topic. And look, sometimes using trending topics can be good, but I think for most cases with a new channel, it's great to make a video that can still be something people want a year from now, because it can be disheartening posting a new video and it getting really low views at the beginning. But when you know it has evergreen potential, well, it's not dead if it hasn't taken off yet. A few months from now, it's still relevant, so it might get some traction and suddenly the algorithm starts pushing it more. I've tried to implement this lesson, but one example I did that I'd probably change is in a Breaking Bad video I did where I was looking at Walter White as an entrepreneur. I made a joke at the very, very start about how untopical this channel was, because at the time Game of Thrones was just finishing, and so literally everyone was making videos about Game of Thrones. Now, as that was literally right at the start, and as we said, the start is crucial, I think after a few months that doesn't really age so well. So it's a very minor thing, but considering that sort of thing, those first few seconds in the video, it's really useful for creating evergreen content that will always be watchable. Lesson 55, remember when designing thumbnails that there will be a timestamp in the bottom right hand corner, so don't put anything in there that needs to be seen, like important text. And so I tend to put the image in my thumbnail on the right hand side now because it doesn't matter if a bit of that is covered, whereas, obviously if it's text, you generally want that to be clearly legible. Which also brings us to lesson 56. When designing the thumbnail, remember to zoom out, because you normally design it at a much bigger size than how it will actually normally be seen. So you've got to ask, does it look good in the really small YouTube size that YouTube normally displays? Because it needs to pop at that size and be clearly legible. It's no use if you can read it really clearly, but only when it's, magnified by 5 times, which is what it often is when you're actually designing it in the first place. So you've got to remember, always see it how it's actually going to be displayed to most people on YouTube, which is quite a small size. I often see thumbnails trying to cram loads of words in, and then it's just bit hard to actually read it in that smaller format. So way better off just sticking to a few keywords, I think, that really grab attention. Lesson 57, not all subscribers will like every video, and that's okay. You have to keep trying new things to reach a bigger audience. I honestly think the reason some big channels start to falter is they stop innovating. Gotta keep pushing on and trying new things, because once you start worrying, oh, they're not gonna like that, well, you really just lose, I think, some of the fun of YouTube and, definitely lose a lot of creativity. Lesson 58, use famejacking. This is something I spoke about before, but it's so useful. When you're starting out, people don't know you. So just offering your thoughts on something and putting your name and face in the title and thumbnail is really limiting. Something I did that I think has worked well was incorporate famous people in where relevant. In fact, my most popular video to date, and one that seems to rank well in search, is centered around Michael Scott from The Office. Now, your channel might not fit having a whole video based on a character or a celebrity, but I'm willing to bet you could tie them into the video somehow. And, benefit then from people looking for videos on that person. It's just about maximizing the chance of someone finding and clicking your video, right? So if it's relevant, there's nothing wrong with utilizing other people's already built up audience by including them in either the title or the description or in the thumbnail even. Lesson 59. Make sure your channel art stands out and fits correctly on devices, because YouTube have very specific dimensions for the banner that appears above your channel. So make sure you look these up when designing it, because otherwise bits will cut off on certain devices. So that when someone sees it on a desktop, it's actually a bit different to what they would see if they viewed it on a mobile device. So make sure the key information that gives a sense of what the channel actually is can be seen on all devices. If you Google, YouTube channel art template, you'll be able to see the exact dimensions of what's showing on what device and make sure everything is viewable that needs to be. Lesson 60. There's no shame in running paid ads to your site that has links to your YouTube channel when you're ready to take it up a level, or even ads specifically to your YouTube channel or your YouTube video. Now, I'm not talking about loads of paid traffic here, because it's probably not the best way to grow your channel. But I say all of this just because there's a weird obsession with organic growth. And yet all the top people are plowing loads of money into their personal brands. I see ads from the big names daily. So to get to the next level, ads can really help. So even if you're not huge yet, and if you want to invest in your channel, I think, a few ads just to drive a bit of extra attention to your channel can be a good thing to do. Lesson 61. You can't change your custom URL after setting one. Or at least it's very hard to do. So go to some big channels and look at the link in the address bar. Quite often they have a different name, sometimes quite a funny old one. So unless you're set on a name, don't register for the custom right at the beginning, because you might be stuck with it. The good news is though that most people don't actually look at the address bar on your channel. But it is nice when sharing the link for it to say your proper channel name. So, wait a little bit if you're not 100% convinced on what your channel is going to be yet. Lesson 62, remind people to like and subscribe. And I always thought it seemed kind of odd that the big YouTubers always did this, because I was like, well, obviously if I like the video, I'll press the like button, and if I want to subscribe, I'll subscribe. And whilst that is true for a lot of people, got to remember that a lot of people don't use YouTube overly regularly. And so if they find a video they enjoy, their instinct might not be to subscribe. And, their instinct almost certainly isn't to turn on the notification bell. So politely asking people, especially after you've already delivered some quality content, might just help you grow your audience a little bit more by putting that reminder out there, especially if it's a longer video, putting it, several times throughout the video, just a very quick mention. So it's not becoming annoying, it's just a little reminder, oh yeah, I do like this video, I'll give it a thumbs up, or oh yeah, this channel is actually pretty cool, I may as well subscribe. Now, let's talk about monetization. Lesson 63. Ad revenue should not be your main source of income. The adpocalypse, as it was dubbed on YouTube, got everyone freaking out except those who were clever enough to not be relying on ads in the first place. As much as I'm looking forward to making some of that sweet, sweet YouTube ad revenue, to make YouTube sustainable, you've got to branch out, because as we've seen, YouTube can change their ad policies at any time, and so don't let this be your main source of income, because it's just not reliable at all. Lesson 64, the ways of monetizing include everything from selling merch to setting up a Patreon, selling extra content, crowdfunding, donations, brand deals, which you can set up yourself by reaching out to brands, and loads more. Lesson 65, you don't have to have loads of subscribers to do those things. I made money from an affiliate link with less than 200 subscribers. Granted, it's not a lot of money, but I don't think there's some magic number you need to start earning. Unlike ad revenue, there isn't at all a limit. You can just have one viewer, and if they love the product you promote via your affiliate link and they go and buy it, well, you'll still get a commission. Having said that, lesson 66 is, I think at the beginning you don't want to ram any sort of sale down people's throats, because, they don't know you yet. I mean, no one wants to buy a t-shirt with your name on if they've seen one video from you. My point with all of this is that from the beginning you can lightly start introducing some of these revenue streams in a non-pushy way. A great example a lot of channels use is the Amazon affiliate program, which is where in the description of their videos they will link to some kit they use on Amazon. It's win-win because it's helpful for the viewer who wants to know what they're using, but then if they end up buying it through your link, or buying anything on Amazon in the next 24 hours through your link, well, you'll get a small commission on it. And for a bigger item like a camera, well, that could add up quite fast. Lesson 67, the topic you talk about directly affects your CPM, which is how much money you make per 1,000 impressions. That's why business and finance is such an amazing niche, because whereas something like comedy that's, not really got the same scope to sell high ticket items, in a niche where there is that potential, advertisers are obviously going to pay more. So bear in mind, there is no set fee at all for the amount of views you get relating to the amount you get paid. It's purely down to what the market is willing to pay to place ads in front of that specific video or that kind of topic. Lesson 68. Bear in mind, once you run ads and turn on monetization, anyone can put an ad in front of your video, including your competitors. Now, I still think you should be turning on ads as soon as you're eligible and hit your 1,000 subscriber mark and 4,000 hours of watch time, which are the requirements for the partner program. But I'm just pointing this out as it works the other way too. You could go and advertise on your competitors if you wanted. Lesson 69. Fully understand the fair use rules. I have spent many long hours on this, so let me give you a heads up to fast track things here. Yes, in theory, you can reuse copyrighted material if certain criteria are met. And it's nothing to do with giving credit. You know, you see that all the time in the description where it says no copyright intended. Yeah, that does nothing. The most critical factor is whether your usage is transformative, meaning you substantially change the original in some way. So no, you can't just upload an episode of a TV show. That's piracy. But a review video, for example, where you take clips and then comment over them and give your original perspective, that probably is transformational. That's why react and review channels can exist at all. But there's more to it. They also consider factors like how much of the original work you're using and for what purpose, and whether it's going to have any kind of negative impact on the potential market for the copyrighted work. So, lesson 70. Those are what the fair use principles are meant to be based on, but the reality is that isn't always the case. From what I can gather, if you're using very small amounts, for example 5 or 10 seconds of a clip as opposed to a 5-minute clip, it's generally less likely to be too much of an issue if you're still transforming it from the original in some way and not hurting their profits or their ability to sell the original. Which is why the Unlikely Mentor series I do, where, you know, it's using very short clips spliced together with loads of voiceover. I'm using the clips to tell a completely different narrative to the original work. So it is, you know, clearly transformational. Whereas me doing a video saying, oh, I really like this clip, you know, that isn't transformational to the original work. So me putting the stuff together in a new way, making a whole new concept out of them, that is. So that hopefully gives you an idea of the difference. But, lesson 71, you are massively increasing your chance of getting a copyright claim as soon as you use any copyrighted material. I seriously debated not doing it at all, but one of the main principles on this channel is trying to make quite dry topics more engaging, and using familiar characters is one great way to do that. But where possible, to be honest, it makes your life easier not to use it, even if you are following the principles. Lesson 72. What you can do is use free stock footage, and there are sites like Pexels and Pixabay which have images and videos that are copyright free and can be used as much as you want in your videos. You'll see this plenty in my videos, where to make a video more interesting than just me on the camera, I'll play relevant clips over the top of the footage. It's as simple as going to a free stock footage website, you just put one into Google and typing in what you want. You know, so maybe, you know, a clip of a car and then downloading it. You can often get better clips by paying, but with enough searching, there's normally something you can get for free that's pretty good. Lesson 73. Now, with music fair use, it's an even bigger minefield. My honest advice after looking into this is to try and stay away from even using a few seconds of a copyrighted song. We've probably all heard users complaining about crazy copyright claims they've had from this, and whilst YouTube says they're working on this, and I believe a few seconds of background music now won't get claimed, such a dangerous game to play, even if you believe it's fair use. Lesson 74. So again, with music, you can use copyright-free stuff. So YouTube has an audio library, and not only is there music tracks in there, there's sound effects too. So if you needed more advanced stuff, you could go and get a subscription to a site where you can access an even bigger library. But honestly, I think for starting out, the YouTube audio library normally does a reasonable job, even if some of the songs are kind of terrible in there. So if you do need music and clips for your videos, check there first of all. Lesson 75. There is a lot of misinformation about copyright on YouTube. After those previous points I just made, you might be thinking it all sounds a little worrying, but it turns out the copyright system is actually a bit better than people make out. Basically, Content ID is YouTube's automatic system for flagging copyrighted material usage. So if you upload a song from a famous artist, the system automatically detects that. Now, just because you've got a copyright claim doesn't mean you're being punished in any way. It just means that the copyright holder gets to decide what to do with that specific video, and 9 times out of 10 what they'll do is claim the monetization for it. But if, as we mentioned earlier, you're not hugely dependent on YouTube ads as your main source of revenue, well, if one of your videos gets claimed, I mean, the company will get to decide what to do with it, which might mean they make some money from the video. But if it's just that one video and you've got other videos and monetization from ads isn't your biggest source of income, it's probably not a big deal. It's certainly not hurting your channel. Lesson 76. Just because you upload some copyrighted material and it doesn't get flagged, doesn't mean it won't. It can get manually flagged later. And this is where often YouTubers get frustrated because they'll sometimes get manual claims on videos that actually were fair use. So, lesson 77. You can fight those claims. When you get a claim, you can dispute it. Be polite and explain why it's fair use or why it's not a proper infringement at all. Often this will then get the whole thing dropped and everything's back to normal. You can monetize, the video's fine, your channel's all good. Sometimes it won't though, because sometimes these companies don't even check it when you dispute and they just get the dispute and go, no, I stand by what I said initially. And that's often because they're getting so many of these claims, they literally just don't even bother looking at them because they just think, oh, the YouTuber's not going to pursue it any further. And so this is where YouTubers get really annoyed because, to take the process any further, they basically have to sign some scary looking document explaining why it's fair use and accept that the claimant can take legal action against them if it's not fair use. So 99% of people at this point don't fight back. And yet, I was reading something yesterday that, about the stories from people who did fight back, and guess what? They all won. Now, I'm not suggesting you do anything without your own research or getting some legal advice if you want, but if you are certain that someone is making an unfair claim on one of your videos, and if you see the YouTube dispute process out to the end, you will almost certainly win. The reason for this is simple. At the final stage, if you've disputed everything along the way, you dispute that initial claim, and then when they say, no, we stand by what we said, and you dispute that again, well, at that final stage, the company or whoever's disputing only has two options now. Number one is that they can take you to court over this video, which is an extremely expensive and lengthy process for them, or they can drop it and the video is restored as normal. And now the court thing might sound terrifying. You're thinking, I don't want to just risk getting sued over this, but if it is genuine fair use, there is absolutely no way they're going to risk going to court over that, especially if you start kicking up a fuss on social media about how unreasonable they're being. Like, honestly, it would make no sense. And so they're forced to drop it. Your account is good and back to normal standing. Your video's monetized. Again, you would only fight back if you have a clear, genuine case. But if you do, it seems YouTubers can actually win. The system can work. The reason it doesn't is most people don't see the dispute process out to completion. And so we get this whole myth around it that it's way scarier than it really is. As long as it's fair use, as long as you see the process out to the end, you can win, you can use things in fair use. At least that's what I'm hearing after all the research I've done. I haven't had any issues yet, but it's still very early days. I have no doubt I'm putting myself up to be claimed at some point, but I also know for sure that what I'm doing is fair use, and so I believe I will be able to fight it and push it all the way if I need to make sure those videos do get, the rightful position on YouTube that they should be allowed because it's fair use. Lesson 78. As a general rule though, before using anyone else's work, make sure you cover yourself either by fully checking these fair use principles for yourself and identifying whether you are following them, or getting direct permission or a license to use the work. Now, obviously that's not always possible, but if you start thinking about this stuff beforehand, it can save you some headaches later on. The worst thing you can do is just throw random stuff in to your video and only consider this later, after which point the video is already doing really well and you're in a bit of a potentially difficult situation. Lesson 79. Okay, so although I think using clips can be a great way to keep interest in your videos to help boost watch time, another thing you can do to help increase that important metric of watch time is using numbered lists. And the psychology of this is that if you say, here's 5 reasons to do such and such, well, you open a loop in the brain that it almost needs to get closed. Because, for example, once you've heard the first 2 things, well, you want to hear what the other 3 are. You want to get to all 5. It's why you see so many countdowns and top 10s. It really does seem to structure the video nicely into bite-sized chunks that's clear to follow and holds the viewer's attention. Lesson 80. Utilize jump cuts. When people hear that they should make longer videos, I think they often think they've got to know what to talk about for over 10 minutes straight. Well, no, you can literally have a script or outline in front of you and keep referring to it and just cut those bits out. My raw footage after filming a video is way longer than the actual final edit, but I just cut to the key bits and edit out the pauses and mistakes to make sure the video flows nicely. I find that there's no need for any dead air in between clips either. You just got to literally jump from one to another so it flows quickly and gets that nice fast pace to it. I mean, it makes the whole thing seem much tighter and well put together in my opinion. And, you know, if you look at most of the big YouTubers, they're all using this. Lesson 81, utilize batching. This honestly changed everything for me. Rather than working on one video at a time, do different tasks in groups. Have one day where you do the research and scripts or outlines for videos, another day where you film them, another day where you make thumbnails and schedule them. It honestly really helps doing these jobs all together. And I'm increasingly realizing that so much of success on YouTube and in life is about having systems and routines in place, and batching your videos in this way by breaking it up is definitely something that I've seen loads of successful YouTubers talking about as working really well, and it's 100% helped me make more content and, you know, get into a bit of a routine with it rather than just randomly scrambling around to put a video together. Lesson 82, if you still think you can't manage more regular videos, you've got to ask yourself, what kind of crazy restrictions are you putting on those videos? Here's what I mean. If I had a gun to your head right now and said, you need to make 100 videos today, well, you could. They'd be awful, but I'll bet you'd do them. So doing a couple a week, well, suddenly that doesn't seem too bad. I mean, with enough planning, you know, surely it's manageable to at least make a couple of videos a week. Now, there isn't a gun to your head, but there is the potential to have a really successful YouTube channel that turns into a career and makes you lots of money. So that should still be enough incentive to produce more regular content because, you know, it comes up time and time again. That's what YouTube want. More content, more frequently, and more scheduled regular uploads. So, lesson 83, in order to plan, keep a document with a list of ideas so you've constantly got material to work from and you can keep adding to it whenever an idea pops into your head, because if you don't write it down, you probably will just lose that idea completely. Even if you don't end up making that particular video, it may inspire another different idea. So, you know, get some folders on your laptop, you know, one with new ideas, one with ideas I've already made, you know, keep track of all this stuff, you know, start building a system that works for you. I mean, it can be on Google Drive is a great way of doing it, so it's accessible in the cloud wherever you are. But the point is, once you start having lists of topic ideas or lists of channels you want to create with and organizing things in a more structured way that makes sense to you, becomes so much easier to stay on top of things. It's really made a big difference for my channel, and I think pretty much all successful YouTubers who are putting out lots of regular content and don't have a team behind them, well, they all must be using some kind of organization like this. Lesson 84, go to a deeper level with your content where possible, because, you know, to grow, I think we have to make genuine connections with people. Anyone can get views, but to get subscribers means people have to say, yes, I want more of this, more of you, and what you're doing here. Which is kind of a nice thing, right? But, you know, to do that, we have to get past the surface layer and go to some topics that maybe other people aren't willing to talk about. Get to the real heart of what is your audience's problem? What can you actually help them with on a more actual deep level? Lesson 85, remember that success is relative. This is a really important point, I think. If you're a fairly new channel, it's easy to look at, say, your 50 views you got on a video and go, wow, that sucks. Because some people are getting millions every video. But imagine those 50 people all sat in a room together and you giving that same information to them there in person, because we've almost become desensitized to these lower numbers because of how high they are for some other people. But when you put it in the perspective like that, of thinking, whoa, I've impacted 50 people with this and actually visualized 50 people. Well, you know, 50 people chose to listen to your thoughts. That's really not too bad. So, you know, celebrate those small wins. It's all relative when you're still growing a new channel. And even as you work your way up, you know, even the big channels, they're always looking and thinking, oh, the grass is greener on the other side, and that, you know, other people are doing better. And it's just human nature to compare yourself to the next thing. So even when you hit a milestone, you're constantly thinking, oh, it could be even better. I've got to aim even higher, because suddenly the benchmark has moved and you've got a new target and a new competitor. You have to start realizing that, you know, although it's good to keep pushing yourself, if you don't celebrate those wins along the way, you know, it can be difficult to keep yourself motivated. Even a few views at the beginning, still something that's, you know, a real positive, that people have chosen to listen to what you're saying and your perspective. Lesson 86. Always use end cards at the end of your videos so the viewers get a chance to click straight to your other stuff. Otherwise, you are letting YouTube recommend videos to watch which often aren't yours. It's similar to the playlist thing. You just want to maximize every opportunity to present your videos to people. So most of the time, you'll always want to be using these end cards at the end of a video, either with, you know, videos you'd recommend that are related, or better yet with playlists, because like we said, if they then click onto one of those playlists, they'll be in a loop of, you know, all your other videos. So it's a great way to boost the watch time and get people to check out your other stuff more. Because chances are, if they liked that one video and they made it all the way to the end, they're probably going to like some of your other stuff. Lesson 87. Now, we've touched on having calls to actions in your videos, like reminding people to subscribe, and not just right at the end because they've often clicked away by then, but you can also utilize a call to action on your main channel page. What you can do is you can add links in the corner of your channel banner. So on mine, I've literally got another subscribe button, but you can have a link there to an email list sign up or a recommended video. You may as well have something important there though, because that's a link that whoever's coming into your channel is gonna see. So make sure if you haven't got one, you're putting something there, even if it's like me and just another subscribe button. It's just another chance for someone to go, oh yeah, you know what, this looks quite good, I'll sign up. Lesson 88. If you're ever struggling for titles and keywords, use YouTube's autocomplete feature when you start typing something in the search box. It literally shows you what other people are searching for. And so this is a great way to find those long tail keywords we mentioned earlier that are actually in demand. Now, this sounds quite simple, but I know a lot of top YouTubers have said they'll often do this before posting a video to see what YouTube is saying people are actually looking for. So it can even help you get ideas for content, because let's say you type in how to make money in the YouTube search box. Well, the autocomplete feature will suggest different subtopics within that, each of which could be a different video. So it's kind of giving you ideas for more niche content almost, you know, rather than just going for that main topic of how to make money. It's going to be a more specific variation that you know people are looking for, because YouTube wouldn't be suggesting it if people weren't looking for that. Lesson 89. Uploading consistently not only matters to YouTube's algorithm, but it matters to viewers. People can only get used to you if you consistently show up. And as a viewer of many channels myself, I kind of, you know, I notice when people are continually showing up. So even if you don't have a set in stone schedule, don't go long periods without posting. I kind of made that mistake, and what I should have done was, when I knew I'd have less time to post, I should have scheduled some posts to be spread out over a couple of months, rather than just posting them all together and then having a huge time away. Lesson 90. On a similar note to that, never post loads in a very short space of time. And by loads, I mean like 5 videos in a day or something. It's just too much and ends up killing the momentum of all those other videos, because, you know, what would work better if you spread those out over a week, or at least over 5 days? Because it's unlikely that anyone except your most diehard fans are going to watch all 5 videos on that one day, and then within a few days it's kind of forgotten about. It's, you know, YouTube moves fast, so things have already dropped down the subscription box by then. Now, of course, you can upload loads of videos at once if you've been doing them in batches, but what I'm talking about here is scheduling them. So you only have maybe one go live a day, or, you know, one go live every couple of days. Otherwise, it's just a bit overwhelming, I think, and it's probably gonna, you know, hurt the potential amount of viewers you could have got from your subscribers if it was a bit more balanced and spread out. Lesson 91. Something I always like to do is make sure I've got a pinned comment on all my videos, often with a question for viewers to help boost engagement, or maybe just a message or a call to action like subscribing. So many people scroll down to the comments, and so it's a great way to reach people even further, as it will be the first thing they read. If you get a particularly great comment from someone else though, you could always pin that to the top, because they'll probably appreciate that. But there's something I've seen recommended a lot, and I do think it helps build a sense of community when you're always in the comments yourself and you're pinning pinning comments and actively engaging with it. Lesson 92. If you want to increase your chances of being eligible for monetization on a video, don't swear in the title, thumbnail, or start of the video, which YouTube deems as around 30 seconds. After that, if it's not threatening or excessive or overly offensive, in theory it should be okay, apparently. Lesson 93. You've got to get into the right state before filming. If you're looking or sounding bored or tired when filming a video because, your channel's not growing and you're questioning, is this all worth it? That kind of comes across in the video and it makes it even harder to grow. That's why you've got to talk about something you genuinely enjoy and like and keep pushing the boundaries so it's fun for you. Like with everything in life, keep your eyes on the prize. So much YouTube stuff overlaps with general mindset stuff, I think. Success on YouTube and success in life aren't that different when you think about it. Things like setting goals, self-discipline, positivity, to-do lists, organization, it's all the same. Lesson 94. Generally speaking, YouTube does reward hard work and those who grind and put the time in. At least that's what I've seen. So many people quit because it's harder than expected or they don't see immediate results, but if you're making good content, YouTube does want it to be seen. So many people think the algorithm is against them. I've seen both new and old creators think this. The truth is, although there are loads of tips and tricks to improve performance, if you regularly put consistently amazing content out, it's hard to believe that YouTube won't start pushing it more and more eventually because, at the start it's kind of like a test. YouTube don't want to promote you until it knows you're serious and going to be consistently putting out good content for them. Because at the end of the day, YouTube is a business, so of course it's going to reward creators who drive them regular traffic. So my point here is, when it seems tough, just remember, if you're doing all the right things, YouTube wants you to succeed. And so it will eventually start pushing you if you are doing those right things. Lesson 95 though, YouTube is constantly changing, so we've got to adapt as the platform does. Just think about how much YouTube has changed in the last 10 years. If you're in this for the long term, get super familiar with all of this and follow channels or blogs or people who talk about important changes. Actually you can look at the Creator Academy and so on, because there's actually a lot of good information out there from YouTube themselves with, things that they're recommending and the best practices. However, lesson 96, YouTube help should be supplementation. Your main focus has to be experimenting with content. Spending your day watching channels dedicated to YouTube support isn't helping if you're not making regular content. Same with all the search engine optimization stuff. It matters, yeah, but at most it's 20% of your success. 80%, I would say, is going to be down to your content. Lesson 97. So bearing that in mind, what we want to do is focus on the big stuff. There are so many components to a successful YouTube channel, and as you can hear from some of the lessons that I've already mentioned and things I've learned on the way, there's plenty to consider. But if it ever feels overwhelming, or if you're ever in doubt, focus on the big stuff that matters most. And the main thing is obviously making good videos. And so as stupidly obvious as that sounds, it's easy to fall into the trap of spending ages replying to comments, worrying about tags and equipment. And so instead of making great videos, which is what's going to have the biggest impact, you're worrying about all that. All of that stuff really does help, but not if you're not producing enough great content to go with it. So I'm just saying this as a reminder, as like with anything in life, we need to avoid busy work or feeling like we're doing a lot, when in reality it's small tasks that aren't hugely productive. That's why I wanted to make this list, to give you the shortcuts, because I've spent so many hours learning each of these lessons the hard way and spending time on all this different YouTube information. And so hopefully after listening to this, you've got a big head start and advantage and can now just go and crush it with your channel. When you overtake PewDiePie, please just remember who helped you out. Lesson 99 though, YouTube is a marathon, not a sprint. So a really cliche quote, I know, but it's 100% true. If you're applying this stuff, working at it hard, your channel will grow, but it might be a struggle. Mr. Beast only had 700 subscribers after 100 videos. Even PewDiePie at the beginning was making videos for less than 1,000 subs for ages. Here's a nice little metaphor, and it's all to do with a Chinese bamboo tree. Because if you plant this special kind of bamboo tree and you make sure to give it enough water, the right soil, enough exposure to sunlight, you won't see any visible growth in the first year. In fact, if you continue to nurture the bamboo tree, nothing will happen in the second year, nothing will grow in the third year, in fact, nothing will happen in the fourth year. However, finally in the 5th year, something amazing happens. The bamboo tree that you planted will grow to 80 feet tall in just 6 weeks. So for the first 4 years, nothing happened. But then in the 5th year, the bamboo tree grows 80 feet tall in just 6 weeks. This is 100% true. Does this mean though that in the first 4 years, nothing had happened? No, it means the bamboo tree was growing, you couldn't see it. It required a strong foundation of developing a root system to support that huge growth eventually. So if you're feeling disheartened, remember your channel is a bamboo tree. You need to build the foundations, even if it's slow, to eventually get that massive growth. Because like I said, at any point, you just need one win for it all to take off and kick into action and, you know, get recommended on YouTube and instantly get a huge surge of subscribers. So, you know, if you stop too soon with your channel, you'd miss out on that growth and you never know how close you are to it suddenly taking off. Lesson 100, we made it, finally. And the final lesson is, don't make videos with 100 lessons in. Look, it's realistically way too much information. To be honest, I did this because I just wanted to get it all out there. And it seemed like a fitting way to talk through, you know, the things that I've picked up so far. You know, as I said, I'm really not trying to say, look, I'm the expert. I'm saying I've spent so long on all these lessons and, you know, here are the things that seem to be working and consistently coming up. So here's all the information so you don't have to do all those same hours of research yourself. Having said that, you know, in terms of watch time, which is, as we said, the most important metric, it'll be interesting to see how far people made it through with this podcast style episode because, you know, on my channel, I'm pretty much going to be focusing on the much shorter, snappier videos that are really, you know, quite concise still. And so it's going to be interesting to see. I'll let you know how it goes. My guess is, you know, it's going to be really relevant for a couple of people, but for most people, probably not. And so, you know, the main focus will in future always be on that shorter style that you're more used to seeing here. But, you know, as I said, you've got to experiment a little bit and see how it works. If I find that the watch time for this, you know, is way higher than some of the other videos, well, maybe I need to consider what I can be doing a little bit differently with content moving forward. You don't know until you try. Now, when I first started this channel, I made a commitment to average 1 video per week, and you better believe that there'll be at least 52 videos on this channel by the end of the year. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be daily videos from this point on like it has been this last week, but you can expect to see plenty of Young Magnates uploads coming your way. Still focused on summarizing the best business and self-development lessons for you in a practical, engaging way. I want to put a big focus on the making money online aspect though, because there's so much misinformation out there and it's a bit of a murky world really. I want to try and bring a new take on some things. So, you know, I'm still keen on doing the Unlikely Mentor series as well, where I look at important, you know, more self-development lessons from the lens of unlikely characters. And so, you know, if you enjoy those style of things, let me know, because I'm genuinely really curious which type of videos I've posted so far you're actually here for or enjoying the most. And, you know, also let me know if you've got an idea for a video you want to see. Even if I don't feel like I know loads on that subject, I'll happily put in the work to learn it and try to present it in a fun and concise way. So, you know, basically, whatever it is, whatever you're thinking related to this channel or YouTube, hit me up. I want this to be a two-way dialogue. But for now, if you are ready to start earning more and leveling up your life, and you've made it all the way to this point, please make sure you are subscribed with the bell turned on so you actually know when a video is put out. Thank you so much for your support with this channel so far. It has genuinely been amazing. I mean, some of the comments honestly have been so nice, way more than I ever expected. And I mean, I replied to every single thing. So, you know, even if you want to tell me that the video sucked, I'm just going to keep replying and keep trying to improve and make the content the best I possibly can. So all feedback, very welcome. Now, of course, there are always more lessons you could learn on YouTube, but honestly, after 100, I think we all need a lie down. So I think it's covered a wide area here to give you the good foundations you need for success on YouTube, or with any form of making content really. But now what we've both got to do, me and you, we've got to put in the actual work, start implementing these, taking action. We've got the information, let's act on it and actually build a successful YouTube channel. Now, don't forget to comment below your guess for the competition so you might win the shout out, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. See you soon.